Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by. Today I'm going to show you how I created this witch wreath. Now I am taking these tutorials a little bit slower, so if you need to skip ahead, it will not offend me. But as always, the supplies will be in the description box for you now, and hopefully you guys enjoy this. It was a lot of fun to make, so just sit back and watch, and hopefully it helps you out.
I'm going to go ahead and just use white pipe cleaners. I don't have black, orange, or purple, and I'm a little impatient today. So I'm just going to go ahead and use white. We won't see this anyway, but if you want these to stick out as like creepy crawlies, definitely use a color that kind of blends in with your wreath. I'm going to do the same thing that I've been doing with these wreaths is 12, so 6 on the inside and 6 on the outside. And in each one of those little sections, I have 3, so it kind of makes like this triangle pattern. So 2 down at the bottom and 1 in the center, but you're going to have 6 on each of those. So I am working on the floor today, so these are just going to be pulled to the side. You can always put them in like a box or a shoe box, and then you kind of just pull, and it works the same as just dropping them on the floor. I just don't have one right now. But I'm just going to use green, orange, and purple this time. I have a standard kind of purple, black, and orange wreath. If you guys want to check that out, feel free to do that. But I always start on the outside. And all you do is you collect the mesh in the way that you want it to lay out. So I'm going to put orange in the middle. And you just take those pipe cleaners, attach it down with your pipe cleaner, and twist pretty tightly. And then you kind of turn the wreath, and you are going to create these really pretty poofs. Now this green is the green that I get anytime you get lucky and find the mesh at Dollar Tree. So these are not, that green is not a seasonal color. Purple, sometimes you can find purple regular too, but the orange is definitely a Halloween season color. So just keep that in mind if you're looking for them. But you just kind of scrunch and make sure your little poofs are the way that you want them. I think that purple's sticking out a little too much for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and down. Okay, and again, you're just gonna adjust, because even once I put it down, sometimes I'll, like this orange is looking a little weird. Doesn't look like there's much there, so I kind of pull, and you got to make sure the pipe cleaners don't get stuck in each other or in the mesh. And you just want this to sit the way that you would want it to sit on a door. You don't want any weird bits sticking out. You just want it to look like it's flowing together and create like this really pretty poof. So then all you're gonna do is just continue to create these little poofs all the way around, just continuing to pull, tighten, tug, adjust. Coming to kind of our start point here, and I'm gonna go ahead and always, like I always do, tuck my tail kind of towards the back of the wreath. You're going to create your last poof. Now you have to be more permanent on this one, so there's not much adjusting that you can do once you've cut. So what you want to do is make sure that you are getting that poof exactly how you want it before you tighten it down and make that cut. So we're going to go ahead and just, and you really can make these poofs as big as you want or as small as you want. It just depends how full you want your wreath to look. So just keep that in mind. And then at your start point, you're just going to use those same pipe cleaners we've been using. Tighten that. Make sure none of the mesh is sticking together. And be very, very careful when you're making your cut. I like to put my hand underneath and glide the scissors on top of my hand, so I know I'm not cutting anything underneath. And then I just make a cut on top. And there we go. There is the outer part. All right, so we're gonna gather it up. You can change the pattern now if you want it more orange and green on the inside and just purple on the outside. You know, feel free to do that. You guys can really change up whatever you want, but I keep the pattern the same. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do exactly like I did before. Green, orange, and then the purple. And sometimes you have to like even up the mesh a bit from where you cut, especially if you cut kind of at an angle, just to make it easier on yourself. Okay, now I'm gonna adjust a little bit before I start putting this down so it's not flat. Okay, adjust a bit there. Okay, now we're going to do the exact same thing we did on the outside, and just repeat it on the inside. So we're going to attach it down using the pipe cleaners. We are going to create our little poofs on the inside, and the only thing that we are keeping an eye on here is that we are creating these poofs to help cover the pipe cleaners. So when I am creating my first poof, I always have to make sure that it's in the center because sometimes they move around. And then when I'm laying it down, I kind of want it to overlap that pipe cleaner. So I want to make sure that I'm using enough to overlap that a bit. And then we just secure it to the next pipe cleaner and adjust. Now what you want to decide is, do you want to add some ribbon? You can add any size ribbon that you want. You can go for the thicker ribbon, you can go for the thinner ribbon. You can also add in mesh tubing, do both, do one or the other. This is kind of where you get to play around and personalize your wreath yourself. So I definitely want to add some black since there's not much black in here. So we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to start adding the black mesh tubing in. And I'm going to do the inside just like I did with the mesh itself. And you kind of have to angle this a certain way so it'll sit how you want it to. And you'll do the same thing if you add ribbon. You just kind of figure out how you want it to go. You can zigzag, do whatever you want. But I'm going to go ahead and just go around this way, adding a little bit of black in there. I did the inner portion like you saw, but my camera died as I was doing the outer portion. But it's just like putting down the mesh. You're just going to use the pipe cleaner. Decided to go ahead and use the little ghost ribbon. I wish I would have had something that had spiders and bats on it instead. But the way I look at it, my house is mostly witches, ghosts, skeletons, and pumpkins anyway. So it all kind of goes together for my house regardless. What I'm going to do is I have to decide, do I want the ghosts on the inside or do I want the skeletons on the inside? Because either way, I'm going to do one or the other because I don't have two of each. If you want the same ribbon going throughout, you'll have to buy 2 9-foot rolls of the same one. But I only have 1 9-foot roll of each. So I'm going to have kind of like a mismatched wreath, but that's okay. So I'm going to put the ghosts, I think, on the inside, and all you do is attach them down using your pipe cleaners, like I've been doing with everything else. Now I do like the thicker ribbon just because I feel like it stands out a little bit more. I like the wired ribbon a little bit more because you can kind of manipulate it better than the fabric ribbon, but the fabric ribbon works too. It's not that you can't use it, it's just what you prefer to work with. You know, that's all that's going to really matter with this. So yeah, you just kind of go around, add your ribbon, your mesh. Make sure it's laying the way that you want it again, like always. Sure. You know which way is your top or your bottom, especially if you have like ribbon that is a certain design. So like say you have hearts, but the hearts are going this way. You don't want the hearts to be upside down once you've put together your wreath. But these ones are going sideways, so it's really not going to make too much of a difference. Just attached it there, and then I'm just going to do the exact same thing I did with the ghost ribbon, and I'm just kind of going to work this through. Okay. And that is it for me. Now you can continue to add, if you want, you can add some more mesh tubing. You can kind of zigzag it through and create, you know, little loops that pop out. Really kind of, you know, think about what you want in there. But I'm going to do that with my spiral fillers, which I'm going to show you how to do in just a second. So while I'm waiting for my son, I'm going to go ahead and seal this witch, because a lot of the times these glitters, like you can see that they're going to come off, and I don't want that to happen over time to where I'm going to have to replace this sign a lot sooner. So I'm going to take a gloss sealant. You can find them over by the craft area, or you can go over to the spray paint, and you can find gloss sealant anywhere. So this is the stuff that I've used. I've had it for a long time, but it's just called Decorative Crafts Clear Acrylic Sealer Gloss. I use these to seal the kids' ornaments when they make ornaments. I use it to seal the rocks that they paint and hide around town, and I'm going to use it to seal this. Anything with glitter on it, I use it to seal it. It's just kind of my go-to. So once you're done putting the ribbon on and all of the mesh tubing, everything that you want kind of on the wreath, you're going to take these little twist ties. Now some people like to leave them out, but it's not really something that I like. So I just go ahead and tuck them underneath the wreath like this. And then I secure it tightly, like I pull down. And I'm going to flip this over so you can see what I'm doing. So I pull tight and I twist these together. And then I just kind of wrap it around the wreath frame. Okay, thank you. So I do that with every single one. So all 12 of those, I secure it to the wreath frame. And pretty soon, we're going to cover this here in a minute, so you're not going to see this. But I definitely recommend using pipe cleaners that do match your wreath, especially if you plan to sell these.
We're now going to work on the spiral fillers. For this, you're going to want to clean up your mesh a bit and get as straight of a line as you possibly can. And you're just going to measure out however much you want. The longer this is going to be, the fuller the spirals will look. I just eyeball it and try to cut them about the same length, but you're going to need 12 green spirals, and then you're going to need 12 orange spirals and 12 purple spirals. What you see me doing here is measuring the ribbon to the length of the spiral, and if you're using the same ribbon throughout, you're going to use 12. You're going to cut 12 of those. If you're using two separate designs, you are going to cut 6, in my case 6 ghosts, and then 6 skeletons. Now feel free to cut additional colored ribbons, whatever you want, different patterns, throw it in there. It really adds something to the spiral fillers, but I didn't have any additional ribbon, or I would have done it, because that's typically what I do. I like the addition of the ribbon to these spiral fillers, but just cut whatever you want. If you want 12 of the same, do 12 of the same, or 6 and 6 in my case, and just kind of put them to the side until we're ready to start those spiral fillers. The next thing that I like to do is I grab just a random ribbon. This is a really, really thin one. The thicker ones are easier to work with, so try to grab that. But again, I'm just using what I have, and I am just cutting 12 extremely long strands of ribbon. These are going to be used to secure your spirals together, and then again to secure them to the wreath frame. So make sure that you're using a long enough length that you can tie multiple times with. So once you have all of your ribbon cut up, everything that you want to put in these spiral fillers laid out, you're going to kind of roll up each one of these spirals tightly. Make sure you put the opening at the bottom so you're not getting any rough edges in your spirals. And you're just going to grab one green, one purple, and one orange. Now, another thing I do want to mention is if you want to seal your ribbon, feel free to do that, but use caution. Do that at your own risk because the ribbon can catch on fire. So just please keep that in mind. That's up to you. I personally like to seal the ribbon, but again, fire hazard, so please be careful. Now you see me just creating a mesh bow with that mesh tubing and adding my ribbon. You're going to add whatever you want to these spirals, guys. It's going to stand out really nicely once you put it into the wreath. I'm going to just take that thin ribbon, and I just kind of wrap it around and pull as tightly as I can so that the way the ribbon isn't falling out or the mesh tubes aren't falling out. It can be a little bit tricky. You might say a couple choice words, but eventually you will get these spiral fillers done. Just again, make sure you're having enough ribbon to tie the spiral fillers together and then be able to secure them to the back of the wreath.
Spirals completed, you're going to have 6 of the skeleton and 6 of the ghost in my case. If you use the same ribbon, it's, you know, you're going to have 12. Now, because I use 2 different ribbon, I have a choice of either putting the skeletons with the ghost to kind of, you know, break it up a little bit, or I could put the skeletons with the skeletons. So you just have to decide, do you want the ghosts all on the inside, or do you want to put some ghosts out here on the outside? So you're going to take the extra string on here, and you are going to cover each one of these pipe cleaners that we've been using. So the spiral goes into each one of those sections. So when you're putting them down, you just want to adjust it and make sure the spirals are covering any gaps that you are seeing, and then you just tie it to the back of the frame. So I'm going to flip this over and hopefully you can see, but I just do a really good knot, a few knots, then I clip the excess. And I just continue to cover all of those pipe cleaners with my spiral fillers. So I wanted to show you guys the difference if you didn't do the spirals, kind of what it would look like. So this is the side with the spirals filled in. You can see that it's much fuller. It just adds to the wreath. Whereas this side, it seems a little bit bare. So you can kind of just see the difference if I would have left that out. And you can just leave it like that if you want to, but I think I'm going to add this little witch's face to this. It already comes with a little hook here that's been stapled on, but if you have a good heavy duty stapler, you can attach another wire down here and attach it to the frame, which is what I plan to do. Wire that I got from Walmart. And I usually just take a decent enough amount to where I can loop it through and tighten it, but not make it too tight that it's going to smush the wreath or sit weird. So what I'm going to do is weave this through the mesh and just make sure that I'm not catching any of the mesh and ripping it. And I'm just going to go through until I find the frame and kind of pull it and adjust until I have the witch sitting how I want. So you just kind of adjust and kind of pull until you kind of figure out how you want her to sit, or your centerpiece to sit. And it helps if you hold it up, but you guys can't really see what I'm doing when I hold it up. Adjusted. You're just going to take the craft wire and secure it to the frame so it doesn't move. So what I do is I just kind of wrap it around a couple of times and secure it into place. There's no real method to this. It's just kind of how you want to go about doing it. And there you go, guys. There is the final product on the door. I am going to have to adjust these little things and kind of hide them into the wreath because I don't like how some of them are poking out. But again, using that mesh tubing helps kind of make more dimension, and you don't have to use the black if you don't like the black in there. You can substitute that for purple, orange, green, you know, whatever you like. It's up to you, but I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. When you do have it on the door, now is the time to just go through and adjust the spiral fillers, adjust the loops that you've got in there, move them around a bit, move the ribbon around, and just kind of really make it work how you want it to. And you'll have to do that over time too. Once you've stored it, you're going to want to refluff it every time you pull it out. There you go. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and if you did, please feel free to check out my other wreath tutorials. I have a couple different kinds out there for Halloween and a few other holidays that I have done in the past. But thank you so much for watching. If you're new, please subscribe, and I plan to do more of these over the next couple of months.